ridiculous pun that I'm not that good at making. He was so close to getting the shave, and he hasn't gotten to be able to do it yet. So we're all hoping that Chris gets to. I hope it's documented. The
When the
shaving.
actual happens?
Yeah, when it actually happens, because that is healthy right there. I don't know. What's your facial situation? Are you able to grow facial hair
No.
pretty well? I didn't think so. I've never seen you with facial hair before.
Can't do it.
I can. I mean, I prefer to keep some facial hair. Nothing to that length. It's very annoying and frustrating.
I believe if I didn't shave for the rest of my life, I would not be able to do what Chris VanMeter
Yeah,
has.
this thing is it's out there. It looks great. I think it looks awesome. Daniel is on the right. He does not have a beard. Does nowhere near as much hair as Chris does. He is playing a Bant control deck. We said we wanted to see more breeding pools. We have them. It is very reminiscent, honestly, to the deck that Team Star City Games played at the Block Constructed Pro Tour. It feels like it. It's got some creatures in Voice of Resurgence, Smiter. It has Aetherling, Angel Serenity. It's got some spells. It has some Wrath, has Revelation. So it's kind of like this mismatch mid-rangey deck that can do a lot of different things.
Let's see. Chris lead off here with an elf. Daniel with just a tapped Hallowed Fountain.
Beautiful. So no red mana for Chris just yet.
And it looks like he has a hand of some Boon Satyrs, another Forest, and a Xenagos. So a really good hand if he can find red mana. And he's just going to main phase the Boon Satyr. Doesn't want to get tagged by any potential counter spells.
Ooh, I like it. A Triminin.
A Triminin.
Triminin is really, really good.
Triminin is good. You see a blue-green temple here from Daniel, so Chris likely with no real firm idea what he's playing against right now.
Oh, and actually, apparently he can't shave until he wins a tournament.
Oh.
He has to actually hoist the trophy. I still like it. You see another Boon Satyr off the top here for Chris. Still no red mana, but he does have he's got a good clock out there right now. So I don't think anything too much to worry about. He could just fire the Mutavault and get in here for 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage. It's pretty good.
He also cast Pelurkanos in his hand, too.
That's true.
He gets one attack with it before Supreme Verdict is even potentially a thing. He has Mutavault as a leftover, so...
Yeah, how far does he want to extend? Does he even put his opponent on being a Bant deck? Or, what do you put your opponent on here? Where you don't oftentimes see a Temple of Mystery and a Hollow Fountain be put into play. And it looks like he's just going to attack with the Boon Satyr. He's going to put Daniel down to 16 and cast the Legendary Hydra and pass the turn back.
So, this is, clearly not red-green monsters at its ideal, as it's missing red mana, but still a lot of pressure from these threats.
Again, the configuration of Daniel's deck is a little bit different. Again, the creatures are Aetherling, Angel Serenity times 2, Voice of Resurgence, Lockdown Smiter, and Sylvan Caryatid are 4 ofs. Then he's got 2 Supreme Verdicts, 4 Dissolves, 3 Jaces, 3 Sphinx Revelations, 2 Elspeths, 3 Detention Spheres, 3 Advent of the Worm. So it feels a lot like a deck we saw last season in Prime Speaker Bant, which is that it could do a little bit of everything. Obviously, it doesn't have a Prime Speaker in this particular list. No Restoration Angel, no Thragtusk. Those cards are long gone. But that deck could be a control deck or it could be an aggro deck, depending on how its draw lined up, and that's exactly what it feels like Daniel's deck does as well. Successful form so far is he's sitting at 3-0. Mutavault going to be the land he plays for the turn. Tough to squeeze that into a 3-color deck.
Yep. A lot of some 3-color decks play 1 or 2.
Yeah. He does have 2 copies in his. Chris does draw a mountain for the turn. Let's see what he wants to do with this. And, the question, of course, is what do I play around if I'm VanMeter? Is he's asking Oles how many cards does he have in his hand? Do you worry about a card like Wrath?
I like playing the land here and just attacking with Pelurkanos and Boon Satyr. If Daniel does nothing, that's good for you, and if he does something, then you can bestow the Boon Satyr onto your other attacker that gets through. Okay. You're not really extending any further into Supreme Verdict because your Boon Satyr is left over after the Wrath.
Sure.
And if Daniel does nothing, you're happy with him taking 9. You say go. If he has Supreme Verdict, you play Boon Satyr the other turn. Hit with that into Mutavault. But I would be loath to cast anything right now in the main phase into a potential counterspell.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because again, when you don't know the contents of your opponent's deck, like it's perfectly fair here, I think, for Chris to want to play around Azorius Charm. You know, I think that makes perfect sense. You have a Hollow Fountain out there. I mean, that's one of the first cards I think of when I'm playing against something that has access to blue and white mana. Is Azorius Charm in some number? Also, a card. There are other cards that could show up to the party, but it's kind of hard to figure out exactly which card you're supposed to play around at this point. So I like the very safe play of just attacking with your 5/5 and your 4/2, and then just passing, because you do have access to another Boon Satyr at the end of turn.
Right.
And 2 mana, so there's a Sylvan Caryatid.
And see if Daniel has any follow here. And if not, then
It might just be the green light, right? Do you think he wants to bestow or just hardcast? I think he just hardcast, right?
I think it's either hardcast or bestow on your elf.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 options
Yeah.
as well. See if this is going to resolve here. It looks like it's going to. You see there's a dissolve there in Oles' hand, but he can't cast it, so VanMeter is going to resolve his 4/2. He's going to untap, he'll take a draw step. He's got a Storm Breath in his hand, draws a force, so doesn't have the necessary double red to be able to cast that, but he does have another attacker with the Mutavault that we have seen in his lands.
You could also try to land Xenagos right now if you wanted to.
I think deploying Xenagos is actually pretty good here. I think he can just go deploy Xenagos, make a 2/2, activate Mutavault via the Elvish Mystic, and just get in the red zone with everybody.
Yeah.
It's going to make a bunch. Oh, he's going to make a bunch of mana and cast Storm Breath. Okay. Because Xenagos is going to generate 4 mana. He can make red mana and then get in the red zone with everybody. And that is going to do it for this particular game. So Chris VanMeter and his Majestic Beard is going to win game number 1 over Daniel Oles, who never really got out of the gates there with his man control deck.
Yeah, if he had been able to play the Caryatid on the second turn instead of the third, who knows, maybe he would have been able to keep pace, but just sort of floundered around and never really got anything going.
Take a look at Daniel's sideboard here. We'll start here since he's going to be on the play. You're going to find a lot of 2-ofs. 2 Mistcutter Hydra, 2 Glare of Heresy, 2 Jace Memory Adept, 2 Negate, 2 Selesnya Charm, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Pithing Needle, and 1 copy of Detention Sphere. I think the easy cards to want to board in here, Selesnya Charm is going to actually take care of a decent amount of Chris's creatures if he bestows. Boon Satyr on something can kill it that way. Also can just, the 2/2 can trade with the 4/2. Additionally, he can just take care of Volukrinos that way, or Scavenging Ooze that starts to grow a little bit out of control. There's some versatility with that card, so I think it's worth bringing in this matchup. 2 copies of Supreme Vert to go along with his 2 main deck. I think that Daniel's going to be the control deck in this matchup, so I like bringing those in. Needle's kind of interesting because he didn't see Domri. He saw Xenagos, which is a card that Chris is playing 3 copies of, but he didn't see Domri, he didn't see Garrick. I think there are a lot of cards that actually name with Pithing Needle in this matchup.
Yeah, particularly since in these sort of games, the green-red deck leans very heavily on its planeswalkers to be where its power is coming from. In the Supreme Verdict games, of course you had to deprioritize your creatures to some extent. You can't lean on them too much, but the planeswalkers are recurring sources of value in grindy games, and so Daniel's probably more concerned with the planeswalkers than any creature really that's in Chris's deck.
And then, of course, the 1 Detention Sphere that's in his sideboard I think is a pretty easy card to sideboard in here. I wouldn't be surprised, however, if Chris brings in Destructive Revelry, a card that he does have 2 copies of in his board.
Yeah, it's, part of the problem with sideboarding right now, if you're in Chris's position, you saw so little out of Daniel's deck that you're guessing to some extent, but Detention Sphere is a reasonable card to assume out of any sort of blue-white control deck. He also has access to 4 copies of a Mistcutter Hydra and a Rourke Thar, all that seem likely to line up well against the cards that Daniel is playing. Again, Chris still sort of guessing to some extent, but he probably has a reasonable idea of the types of cards that are in Daniel's deck.
Now, Patrick, would you say that you are a man of the people?
I have moments of being a man of the people, and I have moments of definitely not being a man of the people. Context really matters with this one.
All right, here we go. This is where I'm going with this. Our friend who mentioned Trim and In, his name is Ollie Green. That's Chimpy1984 on Twitter. I think that's a very good shaving pun. I think that's what we were looking for.
Trim and In's really good.
I think Trim and In's
that
very
definitely gets at least a B+, A-.
He would like a retweet to make his friends jealous.
From whom?
From you and I. I am a man of the people. I know that Basic Mountain, you are not a big retweeter.
I'm not a big retweeter.
I know you're not. I'm going to retweet. I hope that you are a man of the people for Ollie Green.
All right, I'm going to mull this one over,
Okay.
Ollie.
All right. Ollie, you have a favorite and a retweet from me.
Yeah. I can favorite. That's no cost to me.
Oh, that's easy.
That's easy.
That's easy for you. Okay.
That's the extent to which I'm a man of the people. As it costs me nothing, I am a man of the people. When the cost goes up, then I had to reevaluate things.
If you
This
guys,
is nothing personal. I retweet people. You know, if you follow me, you know I very rarely retweet.
this is true. This is true. Basic Mountain does not retweet very often. If you guys would like to throw some tweets our way that you believe Patrick or I should retweet, at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINdy. We're checking them all weekend long. And all year long, honestly. We'll be following Twitter quite a bit on our path here to the first Invitational in Charlotte and the Players' Championship at the back end of 2014.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
I believe my retweets were Drew Levin said some very kind words about Senator Frank Lautenberg from New Jersey, who passed earlier this year.
Okay.
Retweeted those. When Matt Sperling has a really good beat, you know, occasionally I'll get.
Yeah. Sometimes that's worth a retweet.
And that's about the end of the list. That's about where the list is.
Not much a retweeter, huh? Okay.
Not really.
All right. I like to use the favorite button quite a bit. I like to star a tweet.
Yeah, that's a
20.
good one. That's a good one.
Let them know I'm there.
Low cost.
Sorry, Ollie, I'll get him for you. I promise, I'll get him. He's gonna retweet that. Don't have much of a choice, honestly. So as we do see these players shuffling up again, Chris VanMeter on your left, he is up a game here with his Green Red Monsters deck. A deck that him and Brian Brondwin, are both playing this tournament. Chris sitting at 3-0. We've also done a deck tech with him, with Ruben Bressler in the sideboard, so that's certainly something to come here. Daniel Oles does have his back against the wall right now, as he did not do very much in game number 1, so we'd like to see some action out of his band control deck, as both players are going to keep their hand, and game 2 is about to begin.
And Brian Brondwin and Chris VanMeter are playing the same 75.
Yes.
So
players who test together, they make videos together for Star City.
hang out.
They hang out together.
Go to the gym together.
They go to the gym together. They're best buds.
Yeah.
And they also drove here together in pretty bad weather conditions, it seemed. But they wanted to play some Magic, so I like it. I like it. It's a Temple Mystery here for Daniel. VanMeter with a Stomping Ground going down to 18, playing an Elvish Mystic. And Daniel looks like he has acceleration in the form of Sylvan Caryatid.
Much better start for Daniel here.
VanMeter's going to draw a land. It is a forest, so we'll see what Chris wants to do, as he does have a Temple of Abandon to start his turn. Little Scry is going to reveal a Mutavault. He'll consult his hand. You see a couple lands there. He's going to put Mutavault to the bottom. Now again, the thing about what happened with the last game is he's going to play a Caryatid of his own and pass the turn back, is that he didn't really see anything that Daniel really had. So he doesn't know that Daniel has access to Rafts, especially when he's playing Caryatids of his own. So to try to put Daniel on a certain set of cards is actually a pretty difficult thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's part of the difficulty with potentially bringing in a card like Destructive Revelry is it's reasonable to assume that Detention Sphere or possibly other cards are there, but it also, if Detention Sphere was not in Daniel 75, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing of all time.
All right, so VanMeter's going to take a draw step. He draws a Xenagos, and as you mentioned a little bit earlier, the Planeswalkers are cards that really do play a huge role in this particular matchup.
Yeah, and if you're Chris here, do you believe that Dissolve or some other counterspell can be there?
Well, he's going to play a Mistcutter Hydra, so the answer, I believe, is yes.
Yep.
As he slams down a Mistcutter Hydra, it's going to be a 4-4. Of course, it does have haste, so it's going to go right in the red zone. Don't have to worry about a card like Azorius Charm here either, because it does have protection from blue. So looks like he's kind of sandbagging that as Xenagos a little bit.
Yeah, and with the Mountain and Xenagos in Chris's hand, even if Daniel has Supreme Bird here, you're reasonably happy. You get a spot to land Xenagos.
Yep.
Chris with that Mistcutter Hydra play clearly respects the possibility that Daniel has some sort of counterspell in his hand. So this is a much better sequence if you believe that Daniel rather has access to counterspells.
And it doesn't even have to be Dissolve so much, right? It can be a card like Negate as well that you could think the opponent has. The Supreme Bird is going to clean everything up and reset the board.
Chris very quick to untap here as he knows he's going to have a spot to land Xenagos, which he does.
And then Satyr's going to come into play and attacking for 2. So taking the initiative back post a verdict. Also, Daniel didn't have a 4th land to play too, so he's still behind the 8 ball here.
Yep. Signids play a lot better with Wrath of God than Utopia Trees.
This is true.
This is
true. Looks like we're going to see a D-Sphere. It's going to take care of that Xenagos. Seems like Chris has got a pretty good idea what Daniel's up to. As Chris is going to take a draw step, he does have a Scavenging Ooze. He just drew a Gore Clan Rampager.
It's very rare for control decks to be tapping 3 on their main phase nowadays, unless it's Detention Sphere.
Yeah.
You see the occasional Divination, but Chris probably has a pretty good sense of what was coming there.
I love a good Divination. Who would be a good Satyr token?
Good Satyr token?
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
As long as he keeps that beard.
Yeah, good point. Okay. Good point. I think he makes for a mean elemental. He'd be a good Satyr token too, though.
Be a really good Satyr token. So Chris looking in the hand, it looks like 2 Rampagers, a Hydra, and a Ooze. He's clearly ahead in the game right now, but he's obviously contemplating what are the consequences of an untapped 4th land and a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. So he's going to attack here for 5. He's going to put Daniel down to 9. Daniel's going to take a draw step here. Again, still having that mana issues. And his deck just seems like it has a bit of an identity crisis on what it wants to accomplish. I mean, the perfect example of that, obviously, is the fact that he has Sylvan Caryatid side by side with Supreme Verdict. Not to say that's illegal in deck building or anything, because I think it's perfectly fine. But you know, he's having some issues because of that. As here's a Smiter that comes down, Temple Garden coming to play tapped.
And I think this is going to be lethal, as we know that Chris has access to those 2 Rampagers in hand.
So both creatures are going to come into the red zone. Smiter's going to get in front of 1. And Chris is going to say double Rampager out of my Satyr token. That's going to make it 10. And that, my friends, I believe is going to make it a win. Chris VanMeter is going to win this match over Daniel Oles. 2 games to 0. Green Red Monsters moves on to 4-0.